Okay, so you've probably been hearing the name BRICS popping up quite a bit lately, right? Maybe in the news, economic reports. But for anyone who's maybe newer to it, what is BRICS, really? Today, we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into this, well, pretty fascinating intergovernmental group. Our goal here is basically to give you a quick rundown, a shortcut maybe, to understanding its origins, who's in it now, and, why it's becoming such a significant player on the world stage. Maybe offer some insights you don't always hear.
Yeah, it's quite a journey, isn't it? From just an acronym, like you said, to, well, a really pivotal force. It started as this economic idea, but it's definitely evolved.
Absolutely. So I guess to figure out where it's heading, we should probably look back at where it started. Where did BRIC even come from?
Right. Well, it goes back to 2001. There was a British economist, Jim O'Neill. He coined the term BRIC, B-R-I-C, basically to highlight Brazil, Russia, India, and China as these, major emerging economies to watch.
Just an economic grouping initially then?
Pretty much, yeah. But what's interesting is how fast that idea, that economic observation, kind of gained political momentum. It turned into what some called an informal diplomatic club. They actually held their first proper summit in Russia, Yekaterinburg, back in June 2009.
Okay.
And then the big change came in December 2010 when South Africa officially got invited to join. That's when the name changed formally to BRICS with the S. They attended their first summit as a full member in 2011.
Got it. And since those original five, it feels like there's been a lot of movement recently, a lot of growth.
Oh, absolutely. It's been really dynamic. Just in January 2024, there was a pretty major expansion. Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates all officially joined. So boom, membership jumped from 5 up to 9 countries.
Wow. Okay. That's quite a leap.
And didn't stop there. Indonesia followed just this year, January 2025, becoming the first member from Southeast Asia. So that brings the total now to 11. Plus, they've introduced this new category, partner states, started in 2024. It lets countries like Belarus and Malaysia sort of engage with BRICS initiatives without being full members.
Interesting. So it's getting bigger, but also maybe more complex.
Definitely more complex. And it shows the dynamics too. Like Argentina was invited but decided not to join, and Saudi Arabia's membership is apparently still under consideration. So it's, fluid.
Right. So beyond just adding members, there seems to be this real ambition within BRICS to, well, build alternatives to the established Western financial institutions. What's the thinking there?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. It's not just about setting up a bank here or there. It feels like a more fundamental challenge maybe to the financial system set up after World War II. They're aiming to sort of decentralize global economic power, move it away from those traditional centers.
And how are they doing that?
Well, the most visible example is probably the New Development Bank, the NDB. It's headquartered in Shanghai. Its main focus is funding infrastructure projects. It has a stated capital of $100 billion, and last I checked, it had already approved something like over $32 billion for nearly 100 projects.
Okay, so real money moving.
Definitely. And then there's the BRICS Contingent Reserve Arrangement, the CRA. That was set up in 2015. You can kind of think of it as a financial safety net for the member countries. It's designed to provide short-term cash, liquidity if they run into economic trouble, basically acting as an alternative to, say, turning to the IMF.
Right, and I've heard talk about payment systems too, moving away from things like SWIFT.
Precisely. That's another big area. There are ongoing discussions about creating a BRICS payment system, sometimes called BRICS Pay.
Yeah.
The main goal there seems to be making it easier to trade using their own national currencies, bypassing the usual international systems. And, there's even been talk, maybe more speculative, about a potential common currency, sometimes dubbed R5, because of the first letter of the original 5 currencies.
Like the ruble, real rupee?
Exactly. Or maybe something like the BRICS Bridge, which seems to be more about secure digital transactions across borders, again, outside the existing rails.
Okay, so connecting all this back to the bigger picture, all these new members, these financial initiatives, what does it actually mean in terms of global clout? How big is this block now?
The numbers are pretty striking, actually. With the expansion, BRICS Plus now represents about 46% of the world's total population.
Wow, nearly half.
Yeah, and about 25%, a quarter of the world's landmass. Economically, if you look at their combined GDP using purchasing power parity PPP, which, just gives a better sense of real economic size by adjusting for living costs.
Right.
Their share of world GDP in 2022 was around 35.6%, and that figure is actually larger than the G7 countries combined and also larger than the EU combined.
Larger than the G7. Okay, that's significant.
It is. And it's worth noting, of course, that China makes up a very large chunk of that, about 52% of the total BRICS plus GDP, BBP.
Those GDP numbers really do underline their weight.
They do. And I mean, it goes beyond just GDP figures. Think about resources and commodities. They contribute something like 45% of global agricultural output. That includes huge shares of things like wheat, 42%, rice, 52%, soybeans, 46%.
Food security implications there, too.
Big time. And energy, almost 30% of global oil production now comes from BRICS plus countries. These aren't just dry stats. They show the immense leverage BRICS plus has or could have in global markets for essential goods. Even trade within the group is substantial. It was over $600 billion back in 2022. And interestingly, the Chinese renminbi was used in about 47% of those internal transactions.
Okay, so given all this, the size, the economic power, the alternative institutions, it's maybe not surprising that some in the West see BRICS as, well, an anti-Western bloc, maybe even anti-American. Is that fair?
That perception is definitely out there, isn't it? It raises a really important point about how the group is viewed versus how it maybe views itself. Leaders within BRICS, like India's Prime Minister Modi or Russia's President Putin, have often framed it as non-Western rather than explicitly anti-Western.
A subtle distinction, perhaps.
Perhaps. But we also can't, gloss over the internal complexities. This is not a monolithic bloc. You've got vastly different political systems, democracies like Brazil, India, South Africa, sitting alongside non-democratic states like Russia and China. Plus, there are significant existing tensions between members, like the ongoing border disputes between China and India. These things naturally pose challenges for presenting a truly unified front on political issues.
Right. The diversity could limit how much they act as one cohesive political force.
Exactly. It can definitely limit that political jointness, as some analysts call it.
So pulling this all together for you, our listener, what's the takeaway? I mean, BRICS is clearly way more than just a catchy acronym now. It seems like a really dynamic, evolving force that's actively shaping global economics, global politics, and pushing, it seems, towards a more multipolar world order.
That sums it up well. And maybe the final thought to leave folks with is this. How will this continued expansion and especially the development of these alternative financial systems actually reshape the global balance of power over, say, the next 10 years? Especially when you factor in all those diverse internal interests and the geopolitical pressures they all face. It's definitely something worth watching very closely.